Hey, everybody, this is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library, and we are in the month of December, and I'm focusing and celebrating one of our librarians in DeKalb County, one of our former librarians in DeKalb County, Doris K. Wells, whose primary focus was to bring unity to the community. DeKalb County has one of the most diverse communities in the world, and she did her best to bring everybody together with the programs that were offered throughout the library system. So this month, I'm going to focus on multicultural pieces. I try to do that anyway a lot, but this time I'm actually really going to focus on that. And so we're going to be making some beautiful pieces from multicultural or components that come from different countries. Today, we're going to be working with, oh, there it is. How to get over there. So today, we're going to work with some beads from Africa and Greece. I've got these beautiful recycled glass beads. The way they are made is just amazing. And you can see the different colors of glass throughout that they used to crush and combine to make these beautiful beads. We're also going to be using some uh, metal components from Greece. So that's our piece today. It's going to be a necklace. It's also gift giving season for a lot of people. So I wanted to do something that was very unisex that you can make for anybody in a matter of minutes. I've made several of these. I love them. I'm wearing one, and mine is a little. I shortened mine because I wanted it to be a little higher up. But I'm going to be giving anybody who gets kids. And the measurements that I'm going to provide will give you an 18 to 20-inch drop on your necklace that we're going to make. And I'm just loving this. I love that I'm going to be able to share this with you. And I hope that you'll be able to put a lot of these together for people that you'll be giving gifts for. So you're going to need your usual tools. I'm, again, going to be using the beads and components from different countries, but you don't have to do that. You can use any beads that you want for this piece. It's very versatile as far as what you can use to make it. You're going to need your own beads, some leather cord, and your usual tools. I'm using round nose pliers. The barrels are round all the way around. They start larger at the hilt and get pointier towards the tip. And then we have our square nose pliers that are slightly rounded on the outside but flat on the inside. That helps you provide a square shape, or you can use it to tamp down your wire when you need to. We're also going to use some wire cutters that do just that. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm using 20 gauge wire, leather cord. You can use 1, 2, or 3 millimeter leather cord, 1, 2, 3, 4 leather cord. It just depends on how big you want your cord to be and how you want it to look. The other thing that I'm using to finish the piece is jump rings and these little clamps that we'll have on the end to hold your clasp. That is it. So let's go ahead and get down here and get started. Okay, so what I've got here is my 20 gauge wire. This is going to be my focal piece. You can use just several beads all the way across. I'm doing a bar. So you can use several beads all the way across. You can use a large bead in the center, the small beads on each side. It's up to you how you want to make your bar look. So I've got a piece of 20 gauge wire. What I would suggest is that whatever the measurement of beads is that you have, you add another inch and a half, inch to an inch and a half on each side. I'm adding an inch and a half because these tubes that I have large holes. So I want to make sure that the wrap is big enough to keep the the little wrap from going down in the tubes. So I'm going to give myself 1.5 inches on each side. This comes out to about 3 inches. Let's see, I think it's about 3 1/8 inches on its own. Yeah, about 3 1/8. And then I need 1.5 inches on each side. And I think I gave myself 9 inches just to be safe. Yeah, got about 9 inches here. So give yourself a good 1.5 inches to 2 inches on each side. For me, 2 to 4. I say some. Oh, I gave myself a lot more, but that's okay. I may not have much left, or I may have a lot left, and then I can do something with it. We'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and measure off 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to bend the wire to one side. Let's move that out of the way. The camera has a tendency to want to focus on everything, and then it focuses on nothing. So I bent my wire to the side. I bent it off at about a 45-degree angle. Then I slide my wire down my pliers. In my case, I'm giving it a good halfway down my pliers because I want a nice sized loop. I want this to be a bold piece, so I don't need delicate little tiny loops that I would get if I were at the smaller end of my pliers. So I'm about halfway down my pliers. Notice how the pliers are hugging the side that has the long strand, and the short strand is right in between my pliers. I'm not over here in the corner like that, which I see people doing sometimes. I'm not in the corner. I'm right there with the short tail right in between the jaws of my plier, and my long tail is running down the side. So now I'm going to bring that short tail over the top of my pliers and run it down the side until it's parallel with my long wire. Then the wire is in the top half. I'm calling this the top half of my pliers. And what I want is for it to be in the bottom half, so I can bring the tail of this wire, this short tail, over to make a loop. So what I'm going to do is hold on to my wire, open my pliers up without shifting the wire, and reposition the pliers until the side without any wire in it is on top and the one with the wire in it is on the bottom. Then I'm going to bring that short tail of wire under the pliers and across out to the side until I have a loop. So you can see I have a nice little loop there. Yeah. See that? Cool beads. Yeah. So now, there, a little sharper. Now I'm going to grab my square pliers. I'm going to hold on to what I call the face, the flat part, face of my wire. And I'm going to wrap this short tail around the long tail. Now, I like to keep the pliers as close to that little tail as possible so I can use that as a guide or a security, I guess, a little something to lean my wire against while I'm wrapping so I don't end up going all over the place on my wire. So if I use that as a little guide here to make my first wrap around, it's nice and close to my pliers. Then I'm going to make another one right beside it. So I want the wire to be wrapped on top of each other in order to make sure that this little tube, the little knot that I make up here is bigger than the hole in the tube. So I'm going to wrap it again around itself and again. So I have a little spiral there. Then the last wrap, I'm going to go ahead and just let it drift down here under the other wraps so that I can hide that little tip and it won't grab it. It won't snag anything. So there, I have my nice little spiral. And there, my little tip is underneath. And then I'm going to push it down as close as I can get to the long tail. See, now it's nicely underneath there and it won't snag on anything. Push it nice and close to the other wraps. There we go. So there's my little wrap. I have a little gap there. If you want to fix that, you can just squeeze the wires together. So there we have our little wrap. Squeeze it on the side too. Good. And now I'm going to go ahead and introduce my first two. And now you can see what I mean by letting that, I want that to butt right up against the wraps. If I made the wraps too small, this would swallow them up and it would end up over here where my loop is, and I don't want that. So there's my one tube. Isn't this neat? It's antique gold. Brass, I think it is. Oh, I love it. And slide my bead on. Isn't that beautiful? It's just all different pieces of glass that have been broken up, ground up, and then welded back together to form this beautiful bead. There, that's going to be my focal. Let's get everything nicely settled in there. And let's go ahead and do my wrap on the other side. And I have plenty over here, so I don't have to worry about running out. You're better off having a little bit more until you, if you've done this several times, and then you can determine how much you actually need, and you won't have to worry about waste. But there we go. I'm going to go ahead and bend my wire off at that 45-degree angle like I did before, leaving a little bit of space up here so that I can wrap like I did on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and put a bend in it. I've got about maybe 1/8 of an inch of space between the bend and my tube. I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire down about halfway down my pliers, bring that tail of wire over the top and down the side where my beads are until it's running parallel there. Then I'm going to reposition my pliers until the one that doesn't have wire in it is on the top, and the one closest to my beads is the one with the wire in it. Pull it over to the side, that tail, until I have my loop. Here's my little loop. Nice. Now it's time to wrap. Grab my square pliers, hold on to my face. Well, hold on to this face, not my face, the face of my wire. And let's wrap as close as I can the first time to the pliers, and the second time around that one, and the third time. And it just depends on how many wraps you want. You really only need about 1.5. It just depends on what you want to do and how you want it to look. And I have plenty of wire, so I'm going to give it extra wraps just because it doesn't have to be perfect. This is a very organic piece, and I want it to look like it's handmade. So I'm going to give it another wrap because this is a little loose. And I want it a little more snug. There we go. Oh, and I have plenty of wire to do it, so that's great. There we go. So this side is a little more wrapped than the other side, but do I care? No, I like it. So now let me go ahead and shift my little tube so that they're both facing the same direction. We're both going in the same direction. There we go. They're nicely curved, so it'll fit beautifully on your neck. And then let's go ahead and cut off that tail. I always like the little tip to sit in the center of my loop. If it's off on the side, there's more of a chance that it'll catch on something. But if I have it in the center, for some reason, I find that it's easier to, it doesn't snag as easily. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my pliers, snip off this excess. Got about an inch left, which is nice because I can use that for something. Then I'm going to push down that little excess wire. Now, if I had been a little bit more diligent in watching how much of a space I put in between my bend and my bead, I wouldn't have had this much of a wrap. But that's just me. Not right, not right, not wrong, just different. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to push that down a little bit closer so it kind of wedges right in between my wraps and my tube. Ooh, good. So I had what, 9 inches? And I had 1 inch left. Did a bunch of little extra wraps. So yeah, give yourself a good 2 inches on each side. And then that way you don't have to worry about not having enough. It's so much better to have more than you need. And then once you get a little more proficient in regard in doing this, you can decide how many wraps you actually want to do and how much wire you really need. And these aren't always going to be the same size. It depends on how many beads you put on and what beads you use. But this is my little focal piece. Isn't that neat? I could see anybody wearing this. It's very unisex. It just depends on what you put with it. So the next thing I'm going to do is do my cord. So I've given myself 18 inches on each side because I'm going to be folding this in half, meaning that it's going to be 9 inches on each side. So that'll give me an 18-inch drop just from the cord. But because I'm going to also add some beads, that's going to be make it be even longer. So I'm going to actually have about a 20-inch drop on this, about 10 inches on each side by the time I'm finished. So the first thing I'm going to do is wrap up my beads here that I'm going to attach to my cord. Okay, so I'm going to grab a piece of wire again. And for this, I need about an inch on each side. Doesn't need to be as much of a wrap as I had for this because I don't have to worry about covering up this big hole because I'm putting these little African, excuse me, African turquoise beads on either side of it. And they have tiny little holes. So I need about an inch on each side of my beads. My beads are about an inch, take up about an inch of space. So I need a good 3 inches. Yeah, 3 inches. Let's cut that. Okay, I'm going to bend my wire back about an inch on each side. So I'm going to bend it back about an inch at my 45-degree angle. Here we go. Grab my round pliers. Now I don't need quite as big a loop for this. So I'm going to go back down about a third of the way down my pliers because I'm just going to be attaching this with jump rings. I don't need quite as big size. Now, if you want your rings on this to match the rings here, you want to give yourself more wire and make your loops bigger. That's going to be your artistic preference. So I've got my wire in my pliers. The short tail is in between the jaws. I'm going to bring that tail over the top and down the side until it's running parallel with the large or the long strand. Then I'm going to open my pliers up, reposition them until the one that doesn't have beads in or the wire in it is on top. I'm going to bring that tail underneath the pliers and over to the side until I have a loop. And I'm going to wrap it. Grab my square pliers, hold on to the face and wrap. It's a fairly short tail, so I'm going to wrap one time around, and then grab my pliers to do the rest. And now this time, I'm going to wrap it right on the stem. Instead of wrapping the wire around itself, I don't have to worry about making a big spiral. So I'm just going to give it a couple of wraps around the stem. And I really only need 1.5 wraps, but it depends on how much wire or how many wraps you would like. So I'm going to cut off the excess. Notice how I hold it onto the tip so that it doesn't go flying off to parts and then making it necessary for me to chase it down and find it because I really don't want it in my vacuum cleaner or on my floor. Okay, so then I'm going to take my square pliers and this little sharp tip. I'm going to push it down until it's resting against the rest of the wire and under the other wraps and not sticking out where it can do some snagging damage. There we go. So I'm going to grab my beads and put them on. Ooh, isn't this is African turquoise and it is just gorgeous. And put my metal bead on from Greece. I love mixing these up like this. Isn't that beautiful? That is just stunning. Okay, so let's go ahead and make my other loop. I'm going to bend off to the side again. I'm going to give myself the tiniest bit of space in between the beads and my bend. So I'm going to take my pliers and just hold on to it with the little tip. Bend it over to the side. So I have a little wrapping space there, not too much, but not too little. Then I'm going to slide my wire down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers like I did on the other side. Bring that wire over the top and down the side until it's running parallel with the other beads. It can't go any further. I'm going to open up my pliers, reposition it till the bare one is on top. Bring that wire between the pliers and the bead. Grab onto the face and wrap. I think I gave it 2 wraps. I said you really do only need about 1.5. Just depends on how many wraps you want to do and how you want it to look. Okay. Here we go. Yes. So let's go ahead and clip off that excess. And push down that tip. Nice and tight. Right there between the beads and the wrap. Get down there. Nice and snug. There we go. Awesome. So now this is going to attach to this guy like that. But before I do that, I'm going to add it to my cord. And then I'm going to add all of that to the centerpiece. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how to do the cord here. So what I want to do, I forgot my little tube. I'm going to have to go get it. So what I want to do is show you how to do a very simple barrel knot. But I have to go get a little tube in order to do that. So I will be right back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. All right. So I'm going to show you how an easy way to make barrel knots without using your finger to wrap cord around, because I think this is a lot easier. I use a little tube to put my cord through instead of using my finger, but a friend of mine very wisely, because who has these tubes? Everybody might not have them. You might not be able to find them. I said, use something that's cylindrical with a little hole in it. She used a drinking straw. Thank you, Rhonda. That is brilliant. So you can use a little straw to make your wrap, and I'll show you what we need it for. So what I'm going to do is thread my cord through my link here. I want to give myself one of these ends is going to be used to wrap your knot. So one side needs to be a couple of inches longer than the other one so that it will accommodate what you need to wrap your knots. So I'm going to give myself a couple of extra inches. Now this, how many inches you give yourself depends on how big you make how many times you wrap your knot and how big you make your knots, which would be how many times you wrap it. So it also depends on how big your wire is, how thick it is, as to how much space it's going to take up. Now I know 2 inches is about enough for me to be able to make my knots and come out with almost even wire on the other side. But this is not an exact science, so I can't give you an exact amount. I know 2 inches for what I'm using, which I'm using 2 millimeter. I think I'm using 2 millimeter leather. But some of you will have two, some will have three, some will have four when you get your kits. So it's not going to be the exact same. If you have 3 or 4 millimeter, you might want to give yourself 2.5 inches extra on the wrapping cord side. I hope that's making sense. Okay, so what I'm going to do is have my cords together. One is longer than the other, and I'm going to grab my little tube and I'm going to rest it against the short tail. Now, normally, if I was doing it without one of these, I would just wrap it around my finger, but I think it's easier to have the smaller space to wrap around. So I'm going to just rest my little tube against my short tail of cord, and I'm going to wrap the long tail around the tube one time, and then a second time behind the first wrap, just like that. Now hold on to everything. I want to show you what it looks like. There we go. So I wrapped it one time around. I'm going to do it again just so you can see. I'm going to do it a second time, but I just want to make sure you get this. So my tube is resting on the short wire, the short cord. Then I'm going to wrap the long tail around my tube one time, and then again behind the first wrap. Then I'm going to hold on to everything and bring that long tail through the back of my tube, like so. And then again, holding on to everything, I'm going to take the tube off and pull my knot. There's my knot. Now I just need to pull it until it looks the way I want. Pull it until I have a knot. Here we go. And then you can wrap this more times if you want to. I only went around, what, 1.5 times, so I have a very small knot. I'm just getting it tight. There we go. So there's my little knot. And if you want to wrap it around more times, you can. It's really up to you. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to take that out and give it one more wrap so that you can see what it looks like with more wraps. All right. So again, I'm going to give myself a couple of extra inches on the wrapping side. Grab my little tube, rest it on my short tail, wrap my long tail around one time around my little tube, and then a second time around the back, around my tube. Okay, and then put it through the back of my tube. Grab it, hold on to my little knot. So this time I went around 2 times instead of 1.5. Feed that through my little tube. You see a little tube? This is going through it. And then pull that up. Take my tube off. I'm holding on to everything, holding everything in place. And I just tighten my little knot. And you can see I have some extra wraps now. So there we go. Wow, nice. I like it. I think I do like the little extra wraps. But remember, that's also going to shorten your cord. So there we go. Nice. So now I'm going to put my other metal bead on. Isn't that pretty? Ooh, I like it. And I'm going to slide that over both ends of my cord. This is kind of short, but that's okay. That's because I gave myself extra wraps. So now I'm going to go ahead and wrap the other side. Again, usually if you don't have a tube or drinking straw or anything, you can just take this long one and wrap it around your finger. But I just find it easier if I have a smaller something to wrap around. So I'm going to rest my little tube on my short cord right against my bead there. And I'm going to wrap the long tail around the short tail in the tube one time. Oops, I let go. Why did I do that? I don't know. Let's try that again. Rest that on the short cord here. Wrap it once around everything. And then again. You have to be patient because everything wants to shift. On the back. And then one more time. And then put it through. Come on, stop twisting. There we go. Put it through the back of my tube. Where it comes out the other side. Take my tube off. And adjust my knot. Come on. There we go. Get it nice and tight. There we go. There it is. There's my little barrel nuts and my cord. Let's see how much I ended up with. The ruler here. With that's good. So I've got 8.5 inches left. I added another little wrap. Be aware of that. I have 8.5 inches left on this side, and I'll have 8.5 on the other side, and I'll have my bar. So it's going to end up being halfway here, about 20.5 inches. Yes, about 20.5 inches when I finish. And I need to add the clasp. So that's going to add probably another half an inch. So very good. Very, very good. So now I need to put this together. And I've already done the other one. Yay. Okay, so now I need to put everything together. So what do I need? I need some jump rings. So in order to do that, I need to open up my jump rings. And the best way to open your jump rings, really the only way that you should be opening your jump rings, is to twist them open. Because if you pull the little ends apart, you can never get them back to their perfect circle shape. So just take one plier, put it on one side of the opening here, the other plier on the other side, and twist, just like that. Let's try that again. One plier on one side, the other side, plier on the other side. And I can see this is a little overlapped, so I will twist it open and then twist it back just to make sure it's not overextended. But the little tips should rest against each other. There we go. So now I need to put my piece together. So I'm going to take my jump ring and slide one end of my focal piece on the jump ring, and then the loop of my cord on the other one. And then I'm going to twist it closed. Now I can hold it with my finger, just anchor it with my finger and twist it closed, just like that. And then just make sure that those tips are together and that there are no gaps in between the opening of the jump ring. And because just for the sake of security, I like to use a second jump ring, which is why I have this second one. And I think it looks pretty. I think that when you have two jump rings after you've done wraps and spirals, that it kind of looks like the rest of the piece instead of just looking like something that's functional. It kind of adds to the art of it. So I'm going to slide my jump ring on the end of my focal piece and then back through my cord loop and squeeze it closed. Now you can twist it closed like I showed you with your finger or with the other pliers, or you can squeeze it if you're able to grasp that and squeeze it closed. That works too. Just again, make sure that the ends are kind of butting up against each other and perfectly closed. And then we're going to do that on the other side. Same thing. Slide that on. And close it. There. And then add the second one. and close. Now, when you use two jump rings, make sure that the second jump ring doesn't get caught in the first jump ring. They should be completely separate from each other, doing the same job, but not hooked together. So there we go. So now we just have to finish it off. We need to get ready for our clasp. So that's where this little guy comes in. I've already got one on this side. So we just grab our little clamp, and I love these because they have teeth. They have the little teeth in it, so they'll grip the leather so you don't have to worry about it sliding out. So all I need to do is take my little clamp, slide my cord on it, make sure that the cord's going in the right direction and not twisted. Slide my cord inside the clamp. I like to squeeze it a little bit with my fingers, squeeze it close together. Make sure the cord is not up here in the loop where your jump ring is going to go. Otherwise, that'll block, or where your clasp is going to go, because you don't want anything blocking that. Slide it up as close as you can get without going up into the loop. Then grab your square pliers and squeeze. Just squeeze that down nice and tight. Let's give it a good squeeze. There you go. Isn't that neat? Now, what you can do here is either put a lobster clasp on, if you don't want to make a clasp, but why not make your own clasp? I like making my own clasp just because I like doing it, and it's a nice skill to have. What if you go to the store and they don't have any lobster clasps in your color? Then what are you going to do? Just take some of your 20 gauge wire and make one. It's very, very easy to do. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to grab some 20 gauge wire, and we're going to make our own loop. Well, you can use a jump ring for the loop part. Let's do that. And then for the hook, you can make your own. I think I'm going to show you both, just because I like the security of a closed loop for my hook. All right, so for my loop, I need 3 inches. 3 inches of 20 gauge. And for my hook, I need 4 inches. All right. All right, so for the loop, very simple. I'm going to give myself about 1 inch of wire. I'm going to bend just 1 inch from the tip. Grab my round nose pliers. Slide my wire, don't need too big a loop, about 1/4 of the way down my pliers. And I'm going to bring the wire over the top and down the side, like I've done with all my other loops, until it's parallel with the long wire. Reposition my pliers until the empty barrel's on top, and bring that little tail under my pliers until I have a loop. Now, before I do anything with this, I want to put it on my necklace. So I'm going to go ahead and slide it inside the loop at the top of my clamp. Slide it in there, like so. Then I'm going to grab my square pliers, hold onto the face of my loop, and wrap that short tail around the long one. And that is a short tail, so I'm going to grab my round pliers and use that to continue my wrap. I don't need too many wraps, just 1.5 times around is enough. Hence the 1 inch. Cut off what I don't need because I want that little tip to rest right in the middle of the face of my loop. Watch that little tip. It's too tiny to hold on to. And I don't suggest putting your finger there because if it catapults into your finger, it's not a good thing. Snip that off. Let it drop down in the into the barrel. And let's grab my square pliers and push this little tip down against the rest of the wire and under the other loops, the other wraps. There. Then I'm going to go to the other side and make another loop. Now this loop, this one's going right to left. This one's going to be going up and down. So I'm going to go ahead right here against the wrap there. I'm going to bend my wire, grab my round nose pliers. This time I'm going to make a slightly bigger loop. So I'm going to go about 1/3 of the way down. For this one, I went 1/4 of the way down. This one I'm going 1/3 of the way down, so it will accommodate my hook. Bring that tail over the top and down the side. Reposition my pliers. Bring the tail the rest of the way under until I have my loop. And then let's just wrap these wraps on top of the other wraps. Let's wrap that around the little bare wire first and then down on top of the other wraps. And it really, again, only needs to be a couple of wraps. Just enough to secure your loop. Snip off the excess. That's actually long enough for me to hold on to and cut. Grab my square pliers. Sorry, my alarm was about to go off. And I wanted to stop me from doing that. Okay, squeeze that down. Nice and close. Push the tail, little tip down there. And there's my little loop. Let's make the hook. So I'm going to give myself about 1.25 inches from the tip. And you can just eyeball it. Then I'm going to bend my wire over to the side until the two wires, long and short, are meeting. They're running parallel. Then I'm going to squeeze that tip, the folded tip, together as close as I can get without overlapping. And you have to be patient. This is not a fast thing that you can do. You have to kind of be patient and do it a little bit at a time. There we go. All right, and now, nicely side by side, I'm going to go down here about 1/2 inch from the tip, and I'm going to bend the wire straight up away from the other wires. So I'm just going to put a bend in it, just like that. So this is what I have. Then I'm going to grab my square pliers, hold on to both wires, side by side wires, and I'm going to wrap this short tail around the long one. And again, you only need a couple of wraps here. Just securing it. Here we go. Then I'm going to clip off that little end. Push down that tip. Oh, with my square pliers, please. A little closer. There we go. And now let's go ahead and make the hook. Actually, I'm going to make the hook last. Let's go ahead and make our loop. Yeah. So I'm going to bend the wire over to the side. These are my two sides. I'm going to bend it over to the side and grab my round nose pliers, give them a go down about a third of the way, about a quarter of the way down, just like I did on the other one. Bring my wire over the top and down the side until it's running parallel with the rest of the wires. Reposition my pliers, bring that tail under the pliers, and let's attach this to the other side of my cord. Okay, so just slide that in the little clamp loop. That all the way inside. There we go. Make sure it has nice movement there. You don't want it to be so small that your clamp doesn't have any movement. Otherwise, it's going to be very awkward. It's not going to lay right. Okay. Let's hold on to the face. I'll get those pliers in between clamp and my leg. Get in there. Oh my goodness. Get in there. There we go. And let's wrap the wire around. Again, just a couple of times. Fill in the blanks. And wrap it on top of the other wire. Good. Use those together. Nice and neat. And let's cut off that little excess that I don't need. Yeah. Push down that little tip. Right in between the other wraps. Good. Nice. And now I'm going to make my hook. Be nice and flattened out here. So now what I want to do is make my hook. So right down here where the wraps are, I'm going to bend my wire back, and you can use your pliers for that. Just make sure the bend is right there against the wraps, not in the middle of the wraps, but right here at the top where they end. So bend in the wire, just like that. Just like that. There we go. So this is what I have. Slight bend back. Then I'm going to grab my tip here with my round nose pliers and put another bend in the same direction. So I have this little bend and this little bend, just like that. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and I'm going to place them right in the middle of my wire. And go back here almost to the back. And I'm going to squeeze the tip and the base down here where the wrap is together until they meet. Just like that. And there is my little hook. Yay. And this is going to hook right into my little and there we have it. Isn't that neat? Oh, I love it. These beads are so big and fat, they don't want to lay down. Isn't that neat? I think anybody can wear this. Absolutely anybody can and would love to wear this. Okay, let's put it on let's put it on a dress form because it doesn't lay nicely down here because this bead is huge and it wants to roll. So let's go ahead and put it on a form so that you can see what it looks like. There it is. There is our piece. Isn't that neat? And it's so easy to make. And honestly, I think anybody can wear this. This is not male or female. It's for everybody. It's awesome. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Oh, here's another one that I made. I'm telling you, I've just kind of gone crazy with these. So and I'm wearing one. Let me see if I can get this together here. Yeah. I shortened mine. I wanted it shorter. But just to give you an idea of the different ways that you can do this and the different looks that you can get from it. Isn't that awesome? Okay. That's enough of that. I can hear people claiming the other ones right now. Let me get back on camera here. So there you have them. Isn't that neat? I love this so much. And again, just for anybody looking and going, wow, that's really short. I don't want it as close to my neck. You can see that I shortened mine because I just wanted it a little bit shorter. But this is so much fun. Imagine how many people you can make gifts out of this very, very simple process. And again, you can use any beads that you want to make it. It's you use your own artistic vision. So that is our program for today. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you'll make some of these and let me know what you thought of the design itself and of the tutorial, whether you like it or not, whether you could follow it okay. If you could get in touch with me, I'd love to hear from you at jewelrygen20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. You can leave comments and pictures of what you make on the library Facebook page along with the post at facebook.com/DeKalb Library. That's spelled DEKALB Or you can leave comments at the library YouTube page, which is youtube.com/DeKalb County Public Library. DEKALBCOUNTYPUBLICLIBRARY. And please, I would love to hear from you. But until next time, I hope you have a great week and a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.